Toss aside the touchy-feely notions of love in business and recognize the real power it holds. Welcome to the Love is Just Damn Good Business podcast with host Steve Farber. Drawing on his work with a wide variety of companies from the Fortune 100 to smaller family-owned businesses, Farber shares inspiring interviews with business leaders and proven strategies for how you can create experiences that your customers will love by developing a culture that your employees, teammates, and colleagues love working in. Discover why and how love, at the end of the day, is just damn good business for you too. Here's your host, Steve Farber.
Hi, this is Steve Farber, and welcome to Season 2 of the Love is Just Damn Good Business podcast. Have a great series of interviews coming up for you, and we're starting with a very special one. Recently, I had the chance to sit down and talk with Academy Award-winning actor Richard Dreyfuss. Now, if you've been on this planet for any period of time, you already know who Richard Dreyfuss is, but just in case, let me read you a little list of some, not all, but some of the movies that Richard Dreyfuss has been a part of, starting with American Graffiti, The Apprenticeship of Duddy Kravitz, Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, The Goodbye Girl, for which he won the Oscar for Best Actor, Down and Out in Beverly Hills, Call 911, Call 911, Stand By Me, Tin Men, Nuts, for which he won the Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actor, Postcards from the Edge, What About Bob, Baby Steps, Baby Steps, The American President, Mr. Holland's Opus, and in that movie he was nominated for Best Actor in it for both an Oscar and a Golden Globe, and W, the movie W, the Oscar Stone movie, in which he played Dick Cheney. And in 5 years, the 5 years between 1973 and 1978, the films that Dreyfuss appeared in grossed upwards of $900 million. So again, those are just some of the movies that he was in, and there's a bunch more, and he's done a bunch of things on television, TV shows, miniseries. For example, he played Bernie Madoff in the ABC miniseries Madoff. So that's Richard Dreyfuss, the actor. What you're going to learn is a little bit more about Richard Dreyfuss, the passionate activist for civics in our schools. He has an organization called the Dreyfuss Civics Initiative, and this is their stated mission. They seek to revive civics education to teach future generations about the power of their citizenship and the principles that hold America together. In 2006, he created the Dreyfuss Civics Initiative, whose mission is to revitalize and enhance the teaching of civics in American public education to empower future generations with the critical thinking skills needed to fulfill the vast potential of American citizenship. So this is a lively conversation that spans from his movie career, his acting career, to his passion about civics, and you're going to hear a very special, exclusive glimpse. Can you hear a glimpse? You're going to hear a snippet of a fantastic book that he's working on. He's going to read us a little piece of that. So tune in and prepare yourself for a really lively, entertaining, and thought-provoking discussion with Richard Dreyfuss. Enjoy. It is a bit of a cliche to say that a person, whoever that person is a person who needs no introduction. We've all heard that more than once. Well, in this case, it's true. It's true. Richard Dreyfuss needs no introduction because he is that Richard Dreyfuss that you already know about, the iconic, famous, accomplished, amazing actor. In my opinion, I'm not just saying this because he's staring at me through the screen right now, but I'm saying it because it's true. He is really one of the great American actors. And the movies that he's appeared in and the television shows that he's appeared in are really just interwoven into our pop culture and our culture.
Stop.
And need I say more? And a modest fellow as well. So this is the Richard Dreyfuss that you know, and I want to start with that with his storied acting career. But there is a part of Richard Dreyfuss, even though you know of him, that you may not yet know about, and that is a deep passion and cause that he stands for, which we're also going to get into on this episode. So, Richard, thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure.
And we're practically neighbors. We're both from the San Diego area.
Yeah.
And here we are sitting down together over Zoom.
We share an area code.
Yeah, almost. Yeah. I'm downtown. So, yeah, but close enough to get together for a cup of coffee.
Absolutely.
And so I want to start with your amazing career, and I'll start with just kind of a little personal context here. The Goodbye Girl was the movie that garnered you an Academy Award. And as I understand it, at the time, you were the youngest actor to receive that Best Actor something?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Although
anyway, it was a good thing.
It was at the time we didn't make a fuss over it. And it wasn't until the other guy won that they said, "Oh, you're no longer the youngest." And I went, "Oh, I didn't know I had it." So
yeah, okay, yeah. So until you got knocked off your
Mickey
phone, you didn't realize.
beat me. Mickey Rooney was the most talented person who ever existed, and he won an Academy Award for Midsummer Night's Dream when he was like 8. So he wins, but I'm the second, and
okay.
I've tied and gagged Mickey Rooney, so I'm the only one you're going to talk about.
Good job. So my personal connection with that is I saw that movie when I was in college, and the story revolves around, you're an actor, your character is an actor, that is, and who falls in love with a single woman with a little girl, and you called her Kiddo. You called the little girl Kiddo, and you said it in your Richard Dreyfuss voice, Kiddo, hey Kiddo, and it just struck me on such a level that it turned out to be a bit of a premonition, because in my last year of college, I met a single mother who had a little girl named Angelica. This was in 1980. We got married in 1981, and my daughter Angelica was 4 at the time. She's now 40 something, but I called her Kiddo.
Great.
And I have for her entire life. I've called her Kiddo. When she texts me, it's Kiddo. So thank you for that. But so The Goodbye Girl was my first kind of encounter with you, as it was for many people. That was kind of your breakout film, right?
Well, before that was Jaws, and before that was
before that?
Yeah, and before that was The Apprenticeship of Judy Kravitz, and before that was American Graffiti.
American Graffiti. That was the breakout for you. Yeah. Right.
I remember I was making a film in Canada called The Apprenticeship of Judy Kravitz, and Cindy Williams called me and said, "Ricky, you want to be a star?" I said, "Yes." And she said, "Go into Joe Allen's. They're going to go crazy because of American Graffiti." And I was up in the Laurentian Mountains for so long that when I finally got to Joe Allen's, I was yesterday's news. I never
American Graffiti was obviously such an iconic film. There's just the whole the timing of it, the story, the acting was incredible. And most of the actors in that movie at the time were unknown, right? Or not very well known.
Yeah, I would think all of the actors in Graffiti were unknown, and most of them became stars. And that was the film that I was the only one on the set who said, "It's only a little movie. What's the big deal?" And everyone said I was an idiot, and I was. Thankfully,
it's good. It's good when things you say turn out to be true. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Although I think I would take some issue with that myself. There are so many iconic films and moments within those films. Obviously, Jaws was an iconic film, and then as you go further into your career, Mr. Holland's opus. There's just so many great ones, and you played so many different characters. And I've always noticed about you, I don't know what it is. It's something about the way you speak that in your acting, there's like a savoring. It feels to me like you're savoring the words that you're speaking.
George Lucas offered me 2 roles in Graffiti, the Charlie Martin Smith role and my role, Kurt. And I chose Kurt. And he said, why? I said, because Kurt is self-aware. And I love to play self-awareness. And the scene in the movie where I walk down the hallway and try to open up my locker, and they've changed that was invented in order for me to play self-awareness. And that's what you're seeing, because I love to play people who are aware of their own place in the world or in the universe. And that is something that I seek out. It's true in Mr. Holland, and it's true in just about every role I've ever picked. And I also think that if you're a smart actor, if you're an intelligent actor, you have one up on the whole world, because you really do know the way or the why and wherefore of why people behave the way they do. And I like to say to young actors that we have both Hitler and Jesus inside us. And we have to find the appropriate Hitler and the appropriate Jesus in order to bring it out and show people the world. And when you make people laugh, it's a blessing. It's a true blessing. It's not just a blessing for the audience because they're relieved of some pain that they no longer even know they have. They just live with it. But it's when you see people laughing, it's a mitzvah. It's something that you give to people that you get in return. And I think that there's a true nobility in that particular art form. And it's why I've always loved it.
Any characters that you've played that forced you to reveal something of yourself to yourself that you hadn't seen before through the character that you were playing?
Yeah, I think more than once I have been surprised at how much I understood Dick Cheney as I played him. And in Mr. Holland, I understood his problem of not feeling overwhelmed by all of the conflicting feelings you have as a parent and as someone who says, my life will only be valid if I can do such and such. And he spends his whole life not doing it. And it's only towards the end that he realizes that what he has been doing has made his life valid. And I've always thought that acting gave me the way in to humanity. And I've never picked a character that didn't allow that. I've always picked characters that did. And I'm very much aware of it. I mean, I'm very proud of the films I made, not just the films that were successful, but lots of the films that weren't had that in common, that the characters in Tin Men and about gambling and whatever the film was, I have a reason for having done it. And there's a movie called Parador. And all I have to do is say the word Parador and my wife starts laughing. And that's a good way of having a marriage.
That's right. She's laughing for the right reasons. Yeah. So Parador, is that an example of a movie that you wished more people would have seen?
Well, I don't have such a list, but yes, I don't keep a list like that.
Yeah.
I have a list of films that I'd turned down that I shouldn't have. and I'll never tell you which ones they were. And
That's
I
just not
have
even
that.
one.
I also have a list of Dick Cheneys. I tried to get, honest to God, the moment I became a large enough presence in the film business, I went to every studio in town trying to get to play Adolf Hitler.
Really?
Yeah, because we only show Hitler in moments of utter lunacy because we don't want to take responsibility for his humanity. And there's a portion of his life that I thought, and still do, would make a fabulous movie, because he went from the hospital after World War I. He became a spy for the army against the Nazis. He would go to the Nazi meetings and take notes. And then one day he was struck by lightning. Wow. And he got it, and he took over. And that story shows him as human. And I had a friend who died, unfortunately, who was a brilliant man. And he was Viennese originally, but he became a very successful writer. And I accompanied him to Vienna, where the mayor was giving him a prize, an award. And the mayor said, "We kicked you out, and you're the only one who came back." And he had come back and wrote for half of his life stories and things as a Viennese. And he also wrote as an American. And he did an imitation of the greatest orator in European history, Adolf Hitler. And he wasn't a screamer. He would lean on the lectern and clasp his hands like this. And he would look into people's eyes and say, "I went hungry as you went hungry. And I slept under bridges as you slept under bridges. And I was betrayed as you were betrayed." And you could see these faces. He had in his home a domestic, a maid, who hated Hitler. And she had a Nazi boyfriend. And he dragged her to the only speech that Adolf Hitler had planned to make in Vienna after the two countries merged. And she came back from that speech and went to my friend's father and said, "He will never hurt you." And the man said, "Why do you say that?" She said, "He may have some crazy people around him, but he will never hurt you." Why? Because he's God.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Unbelievable. So that makes me uncomfortable on so many levels. So I can see why, as an actor, that'd be a fascinating thing to explore. But it's uncomfortable because he was a monster. It's uncomfortable because we all know he was a monster. It's uncomfortable because to say that even a monster had a time in his life where he had humanity,
or how
and then
about
a time in his life where he figured out how to manipulate people as an orator, that is just it's challenging to even think about.
He was not to himself was a monster. We don't see our own monstrosity either. And you can see it all in traffic. If you pay attention in traffic, you first see that some guy comes right up to your tail, right up to the tail. You're going 80 miles an hour, you got a kid in the car, and he comes right up to the tail, and you honk and say, get out of here. I got my son is in the car, you asshole. And at that moment, you realize you're passing your exit, and you just cross 4 lanes and get on the exit, and everyone is honking at you, and you're going, what do you want from me? I was just passing come on, give me a break. And in 1 minute, you're both virtuous and virtueless. And that in 1 minute.
But is it not true that the degree matters? So what separates a moment of monstrous thinking in traffic is not the same thing as the kind of monstrosity that kills millions of people.
Well, as long as you're saying that you don't have to commit monstrous acts in order to play a monster. I can take that little tiny monstrosity or a monstrosity tininess and make that work for my Hitler.
Right. Got it. Yeah. So you're finding even in a character like that, you're finding a commonality on some level in yourself. And that's a place where most of us don't want to go.
Right. And actors don't want to go. And when you watch actors closely, you can see an actor saying to the audience, this isn't me. They wink at you and they step out of character invisibly and say, it's not me. Don't think that it's me. And when the actor doesn't do that, that's when you give him an Academy Award. That's when what's his name? Val Kilmer did when he played Doc Holliday. That's what great actors who have courage and are willing to take on the anger, the hatred of the audience in order to make that point. That's someone special.
So when you're giving advice to young actors, as I'm sure you've done, let's just say more than once, you're able to draw the parallel from what you learned as an actor, and you can impart some of that wisdom to them in their acting careers. Is there anything you've learned as an actor that any of us in any walk of life should consider or apply in the way that we live our lives?
If the answer to that is no, the acting would not have remained in the kit bag of the culture for so long. It's the oldest of art forms. When you think about it, before music and before that and this, someone had to tell the story of the hunt. And it was the guy who went, that's the first actor. And probably he wanted a raise. And that was before language. And that's how long acting has been around, that music will eventually make you burst into tears, as will writing, as will dance. Acting is the only art form that can act on you so fast that it's like someone who can reach into your chest, take your heart, throw it down on the ground, pick it up, and throw it back into your heart again in 1 millisecond. That's what acting can do. No other art form can do that.
So you're on kind of the way I see it, and correct me if I'm wrong, there are, I mean, all of us have different facets in our lives and different areas of passion. You have a couple of I'm going to say, parallel passions in your life. One is that passion that's run through your entire acting career. And by the way, are you making movies? Do you have any others coming up, or is it something that you've put on the sidelines?
I put it on the sidelines, but I discovered that there's a law in California that says you are not allowed to quit show business. So they actually send you to prison. So I announced my retirement from filmmaking in 2004, and I'm still acting in film. And the reason I can do that is because I need the money, but I can do that because I was having dinner one night with, what's her name? The girl Laurie Singer. And Laurie said to me, so what are you doing now? And I said, well, I retired. I'm in education. And she said, no, seriously, what are you doing? And I said, no, I am. I went to Oxford for 4 years, and in 2004. And she said, Richard, what are you doing? And I said, okay, I'm going for the Nobel. And she said, oh, as if that was illegitimate
Right.
goal. And
That's just an educator.
Yeah. And I have to tell you that I did go for 4 years. I was a senior research advisor. So I was neither faculty nor student, but I was both in a sense.
So you said,
And
I'm no longer an actor. I'm off to Oxford.
I'm no longer a film actor.
Film
I
actor.
love acting on stage. I love it
Okay.
more. So I didn't say that. I just said film acting. And my daughter, who is a formidable human, wrote a book about the family. And in the book, the father was a desperate actor trying to regain his stardom. And I didn't say anything for about a year. And then I said, Emily, that book you wrote, she nodded. I said, that hurt. And she said, why? I said, because it wasn't true. And she looked at me the way she had when she was 2, because they only discovered that in the womb, you can have this, the opposing thumb, you can have this, and you can have, look closely, you can have this. And that's what the eye roll. So my daughter eye rolled me and said, Dad. And I said, think it through, Em. I was in Oxford for 4 years. You can't do both. You never saw me pick up a phone in 4 years and ask my agent if there was anything for me. I had left and I met and fell in love and married. And I didn't invite my wife into a life that was in desperate need of anything. I thought I was loaded, but there was a crisis in the family and I was no longer loaded. So I had to start again. It's the only way I knew how to make a living was to do that. And I started again the same way I did when I was 10, with one line in one show. And I did that for 10 years. And then I did Madoff, which so pissed off ABC that they simply neglected to put it in the envelope for the Emmy voters. And when my agent pointed that out to them, they said, oops. And we said, are you going to do anything? No, you're not going to say it. I'm sorry. You're not going to have a special. No, because I had pissed them off.
So Madoff was kind of your re-entry into the limelight, as it were.
It was my attempt, but it didn't work.
I think a lot of people saw it for sure. You have, for quite some time, had a real passion for civics, and particularly because we no longer teach civics to our children, and therefore most of us grow up without having any idea what it truly means to be a citizen in this, in particularly in the U.S.
Whenever I speak in front of audiences, I always start with one thing, and that is I ask the audience as they're coming in to stand up and put their hand over their heart and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And as they're sitting down, I say, no, stand up, put your hand over your heart, and let's do it again. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have argued so bitterly over the phrase under God that we have forgotten that we are pledging allegiance to the republic. And that is what has happened formally in the United States between the years 1971 or 2 to the middle of the Reagan era, 10 or 11 years later. Civics was removed from American history and put in social studies, which was up one floor and around to the back. And it ceased being the actual history of what we did and caused the most important political revolution in the history of human civilization.
I know that you're working on a book, and what I'd love for you to do is give us your dramatic reading of actually what right now is the last part of your book. Would you be willing to do that?
Yes. Would I be willing to do that?
Should I virtually twist your arm or what?
Just throw pennies. That's all you got to do. Left to ourselves, we slice through one another and our kids. And we learned what Spartacus learned at gladiator school was a slow kill, wounding their brains just effectively enough that they begin to drip potential. We read only headlines. We don't read the whole article. We read the reviews and buy the book. We don't read the book. At dinner parties, we just scream headlines at one another in growing frenzies of rage. And we don't realize that the steady, invisible loss of intellectual creativity creates a loss of self-esteem that hardens into inarguable positions that makes anxious that tricky thought, my head is beginning to hurt. And doctors call conditions like bad blood pressure invisible killers. Not thinking will kill you, just like bad blood pressure. And doctors and others call that condition stupid. We say stupid things. We vote stupid, love stupid, hate stupid, and we have no idea how to love one another. And we aim our rifles at the wrong guy at the wrong battlefield. We vote to enrich those who are already billionaires, somehow thinking that we are not punishing ourselves. And then I say, anyone who disparages the need for our coming students to be turned into active citizens before the end of high school is a bad politician, a bad parent, a bad teacher, a bad principal, and a bad citizen. You all must act for the good of this nation, for your souls, for our nation that we will not live to see. But right now, we are abandoning our children with an eviscerated education. We act as if we hate them, and perhaps we do. But if you don't actively change, if you will be branded by them, your children, as selfish, lazy cowards who denied them the city on the hill that will be seen as an unreachable distraction, and not the very real pearl we had in our hands and indifferently kicked away. That's not a maybe. That's how you will be known. No ifs, no ands, no buts, forever despised. That's the book.
Okay, that is killer.
I have 2 grandchildren and I have nightmares. No kidding. And in my nightmares, my 2 grandchildren, I'm sorry, they'll look at me and their parents, my daughter, and then they'll say, how could you have abandoned us like this? Because that's what we've done. And I say in the book, we don't hate our children, do we? Then why are we treating them as if we do? We teach them nothing. And we then say, well, you'll get it in university.
And of course, the irony is that because we don't hate our children, none of those decisions are made with malicious intent, right? We think, well, if we teach them STEM, if we teach them, science and tech and engineering and math and all that, we're giving them the tools that they need to survive and thrive in this world, which may all be true, but at the expense of that deeper. There's a few things coming together for me that I haven't thought about as being in the same neighborhood before. The knowledge of the context of being a citizen, and the arts and creativity and the ability to think and the ability to create are all kind of tied in together in that same ball that was just kind of cut away.
instead of taking this pearl, this indescribably valuable pearl, and tossing it away as if it was no consequence, what we did was deny the fact that art, for instance, could inform science,
right,
and
yes.
vice versa. And when we did that, it was open season. Everything stopped being connectable, and all of it was connectable, and we never should have gone down that road. And when we did, we limited the possibility, the potential of our human brain. Buckminster Fuller says, the human brain is the most powerful tool in the universe, but it comes without an operating manual. The Constitution was an operating manual for the human brain. And it was possible by learning the communication skills, which we call civics, and that was civility and civic discourse and the public sphere. So we have to really make sure we take an interest in these things. We have to be what we were, and we have to honor what we have been. And you have to do that by history and by taking the logical position that common sense should not be uncommon. The name of my book is The Return to Senselessness. Senselessness, the malicious, cruel behavior of the 10% over the 90% for the entire history of humanity. And by the way, my researchers, when I wrote this book, they were both Republican, and they were both saying to me, you're exaggerating this problem. And to make a long story short, they couldn't prove it. They actually realized that I wasn't exaggerating even a little bit.
Well, I can't wait to read the book in its final yet unfinal form, and it's going to be a great contribution to our national and I think international dialogue. Richard, what a treat, what a joy, what a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking this time with me and with us. And to all of you listening in, thanks for tuning in today, and we'll catch you next time. And do what you love in the service of people who love what you do. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Love is Just Damn Good Business with Steve Farber. Join us again next time, because when customer and employee satisfaction just isn't enough anymore, we are here to back you up with specific ideas to operationalize love to make an enormous difference in your business, personal life, and the world around you. Visit our website at stevefarber.com to leave a review. And don't forget to share the love with your colleagues and friends, because after all, it's just damn good business.